Hey everybody, what is going on? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's Friday. That means it's time for the Rex and the Robbie Show, and I am Robbie, and we are actually proving today that you can, in fact, have the Rex and Robbie Show without Rex, because we've got someone better than Rex today. It's time for the Amy and Robbie Show. What is up, Amy?
I'm great, Robbie. How are you?
Doing great. Rockin' Robbie, awesome Amy. I like the sound of that. I like the alliteration. I'm a big fan of it. So thank you for joining us today. In lieu of Rex's absence.
It was a little last minute, but I'm still happy to be here regardless. And it's Friday. Fridays are always a little chaotic, but that's what makes them interesting, right?
Exactly, right? Fantastic Fridays with Amy. Awesome Amy and Rockin' Robbie. That's the new show, everybody. Moving forward. Fantastic Fridays with awesome Amy and Rockin' Robbie. That sounds way better than the Rex and Robbie Show. Yes, that's you finally have made your move. All right, we got a few topics today, some interesting topics. The first thing we're going to be talking about is the fact that Donald Glover, there was a Lando series that was in development some time ago. Obviously, Donald Glover played Lando Calrissian in the Solo movie. That didn't really go over so well. So that's kind of been up in the air. But apparently, it's being reported that this is actually still being developed. And now it's being developed as a feature film. One of many Star Wars films out there in some form of pre-production that we'll probably never see. I don't know. What do you think about this news? You out there in the chat, first of all, thank you for joining us. What do you think about it? And Amy, what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea, a bad idea? What do you think?
I guess it really depends on the story itself, what they're telling, because some stories are just structurally better. I know after Obi-Wan came out, people are like, I think it would have worked better as a movie instead of just 6 episodes. It probably would have been a tighter, better flowing storyline if it was a movie. So maybe that's what they're thinking for Lando, and we don't know if it's going to be, did they say if it's still just Disney Plus or do they plan theatrical? I mean, I guess they could do theatrical because it's Donald Glover. People love him. They'll come to see him. So it's really about, I hope that that's what they're thinking about. If it's a better way to structure the story, if it's better as a movie than as a series.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that their strategy going forward now is theatrical releases, because I think that the Disney Plus streaming experiment, like obviously Disney Plus, we'll be talking about this a little bit later. Disney Plus is successful to a certain extent, but it has hindered some of their success as far as their theatrical releases, for instance, right? So I do think that they are trying to move back into doing that. So my biggest thing is this, and I thought Donald Glover was awesome as Lando in that movie. In fact, I like Solo. Solo is one of my, like, out of all the new Star Wars movies, it's one of my favorites. I actually really like Solo. I liked his performance. I think Donald Glover has star power. He has pull. However, him as that character is connected to this movie. And what worries me is that some of the kind of attitude about Solo would carry over into this project. What do you think about that?
It's a possibility. Not going to lie. I'll admit I haven't seen Solo since it came out. I don't remember disliking it. I remember thinking it was fine. Maybe I need to give it a rewatch, but I do remember liking Donald Glover in it. That was very clear. I liked seeing him and young Han Solo interact, and I liked that. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, it surprises me that I liked Solo so much, because that was a movie that was being developed by like a team of directors or something. And then like the studio had problems with what they were setting up, and they wanted to set up this whole thing to go over multiple movies or something. So they got ousted from the project. If you remember, they left due to creative differences. They brought in Ron Howard in the middle of production.
Robbie,
and
is it
yeah.
you?
Oh, that's you, Amy. And here we thought it was just Rex, everybody. But it apparently is the office itself. All right. Hopefully Amy will be back at some point.
We were going good. Would actually
she's coming back.
Today.
There you are. Are you back?
I thought just me, it would go smoother today.
Yeah, I did too, actually. And it was for a moment. We fooled ourselves, Amy.
Oh.
What I was saying was I was surprised that I liked that movie so much due to all of the trouble on set where they had to like get rid of the directors, bring in Ron Howard. And I know a lot of people didn't like it. Plus there was this backlash from a section of the internet due to The Last Jedi, and they were doing that whole like boycott Solo stuff or whatever. But it's been a while since we've had a Star Wars film, so maybe it's time. I don't know. Maybe this is the one. Do you have any faith, Amy, that any of these movies in development, like there's the James Mangold one, right? There's the Daisy Ridley Rey Skywalker movie. There's this one now. Do you have any faith that any of these are actually going to happen? Because they've announced so many movies that have never happened over the last few years.
It's all up in the air. Plans keep changing. I don't know. It might. I mean, with plenty of their shows are being successful right now. I hear Ahsoka's doing great. And what else is on right now? I'm blanking. But most of the Star Wars series on Disney Plus, is my point, have been successful. Are they still thinking maybe stick to this just for a little while longer while they figure out the movie stuff? Or are they still trying to pick the right project to afford with the movie?
Yeah, it seems like their plans are kind of all over the place, right? Because they're like, oh, James Mangold's going to do his thing. It's going to be like Knights of the Old Republic. We're like, okay, that sounds cool. They're like, oh, we're also going to do another Daisy Ridley film. To me, that I'm like, it's kind of almost the same thing with this Lando thing. It's like, do you want to move beyond this contentious, divisive Star Wars era and like if they brought in James Mangold to do like Knights of the Old Republic or something set back in the day in a different era, different characters, that feels to me like it would be them saying, hey, we get it. It didn't quite work. It worked for some people, didn't work for everybody. But for us, it just didn't work. We're going to do something new. And it would be that. But it still feels like they're trying to hold on to something that may have worked or may not have worked. Like, honestly, with the sequel trilogy, why would anybody at Disney think it's a good idea to continue those character stories? Because it doesn't seem like many people appreciate. What did you think about the sequel trilogy, Amy, overall?
The sequel trilogy, like, I guess a mixed bag, because I thought some stuff was pulled off very nice and some stuff, as thinking as a writer and stuff like that, it was just like, why? And it felt like, I think the biggest issue with it was they were clearly kind of making it up as they went along. And the one credit I do give the prequels, even though they're not the greatest films, is that they knew what they were doing with that specific trilogy. They knew where it was starting and where it was going to end. And the newer trilogy, I thought they had a solid start. Some characters could have been developed better, and some stuff just felt so tacked on at the end.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, we'll fix it. Here, let's clean it up and see all the stuff you like. That's what the last one kind of felt like. And I know people have their own issues with Last Jedi, but I was like, at least they tried something. It wasn't another. They didn't try to remake Empire. If that's the thing. If you don't. I'm trying to say it as nicely as I
get exactly what you're saying, Amy, because Force Awakens, I enjoy the movie. It was a fun experience in the theater. It had those like vibes of nostalgia, especially when you turn and you see the Millennium Falcon and the music starts speeding up and things like that. But at the same point, I'm like, that's pretty much New Hope, right? It's almost like the same plot, but now it's a star killer instead of a Death Star, right? Last Jedi was trying to do something different. And I think Last Jedi is visually the most stunning Star Wars movie. Like, that movie is gorgeous. The only problem is that movie kind of like loses itself when it goes off into this weird tangent on that casino planet. And it like, you were speaking as a writer, like it just feels like none of that really connects in any kind of way to the actual story. So overall, I like Last Jedi, but then Rise of Skywalker was just like, yeah, like you said, let's just throw it all. Hey, what? No, this has been the plan. It's been the Emperor the whole time, and this and that. But they never explain like why the Emperor's back and all this kind of stuff. Of course, Donald Glover
returned.
Yeah, and of course, like, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Amy.
I'm sorry. I just thought of that one line because I'd say the very beginning was just like somehow Palpatine returned. It was like, oh, okay, who pulled that? Where'd you pull that from?
Yeah, that's lazy, right? But like, what was like? Of course, Lando, Donald Glover, has nothing to do with that trilogy, right? But it just seems like they don't quite know what they need to do right now as far as Star Wars cinematically. Maybe they just need to take a little bit of time. That being said, I'm always down to seeing more Donald Glover on screen, especially as a character like Lando Calrissian. I thought he did a great job. Raul says, I'm all for it if they bring back Darth Maul. And that was something teased at the end of Solo. And I would love to see Darth Maul come back. What do you think, Amy?
That would be interesting. Quick question for all the Star Wars fans out there. So certain people can totally survive getting stabbed and cut in half, and then some people just can't.
Yeah. Well, I get what was the reasoning with Darth Maul is like his hatred kept him alive, right? Like his hate, and it fueled the dark side of the Force or something like that. Hey, we got Billy in the house. He must have heard us talking about Star Wars.
I don't know if I really buy that reason. My hatred kept me going. Like, that's just me. That's just me.
Well, I don't want to upset anybody, but honestly, I don't think Star Wars should ever have been like touted as like some of the best writing in movie history. You know what I'm saying? Like Star Wars success was due to a sense of adventure and the special effects and stuff like that, to me, at least.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
All right. Oh, yep. There's Collecting Dude. So, yep, his hate kept him alive. I actually know plenty of people, Amy, that I feel are kept alive by hate. So,
and guys, hate's not healthy. Let it go, please. It's not worth it.
All right. Next topic of the day. Moving on from Star Wars. And I set this up thinking Rex would be here because this is one of Rex's favorite things to talk about. So he's been mentioning about how we need to have this new method of how to consider a movie a success, because Elemental, the Pixar film, debuted in theaters, did very poorly in its first couple weeks. Over time, and particularly internationally, started gaining a lot of traction and making some money. Last week, we were talking about how Little Mermaid broke the Disney Plus record for the most views at release. Well, that record's now been broken by Elemental. I think 26 million or something like that was the number. So once again, just proving that, the audience is changing. Nobody went to the theaters to see this. They actually waited for this to stream. A lot of people did. And it leads me to think that whole effort that they had of when they were doing, and I understand with the pandemic and everything, but they kind of committed, especially to their animated properties, to having them streaming. If, maybe in lieu instead of a theatrical release, or at the same time, I think it's really training people into waiting for these movies. But apparently Elemental is a success. And so those box office metrics didn't really do much for us. What do you think about this? What to you, do you have any thoughts on the reasoning? Is this a gear shift change in how we are consuming our media and our art?
I'm thinking about what we said last week, and one of the few things Rex and I that we all actually agree on is that we got to change the standards of what's considered a success, because obviously if a lot of people are watching your movie online or on streaming, then it's a success because people are seeing it. That's really what should mean success, is how many people get to see it and how many people connect with it. And again, it's we've come up with over a dozen reasons with why maybe it's easier to just watch it on streaming than go into the theater, like whether it's expensive or you're still scared of COVID, or one of the reasons I keep bringing up, so much came out this year. People had to pick and choose. So if people were catching up on Elemental because they missed it, they're finally getting to see it. It's more than just one thing.
Yeah, I like how you were talking about how maybe a little bit too expensive too, because Elemental, for instance, pretty much an all ages kid film, a family film, something like that. Back in the day when I was growing up, I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, right? So for us to all go out to the movies, that was, even back in the 90s, that was very expensive, and it happened very rarely. And when I started going to the cinema very often was when I was like a teenager, when I started mowing lawns and having my own money and being able to do my own kind of thing. That's when I started going to the theater every week. The family outing was always rare for us. That's why I have such treasured memories with movies like Jurassic Park or Batman Forever. These are movies that I went with my family to go see in a big event. Like maybe my dad had gotten a bonus or something like that, right? So let's take everybody out to the movie theater. And it's a big ordeal to take a batch of kids and some adults and get them together out to the theater on time, have dinner, get your snacks, get into the theater, all that kind of stuff. And now with everything being so expensive and inflation just going ridiculously nuts, the economy doing what it's doing, yeah, it's a hard sell to take your kids out to a movie when you're going to be spending like $30 each on a ticket and snacks and stuff like that. I think that has a lot to do with it.
When you talk about going out with your family, it made me think of, it's just me and my brother, but when our parents would take us out, again, it was some big animated movie, whether it was DreamWorks or Pixar. And yeah, you remember that because all of you went to see it. And again, that's why the theater experience, even though it's getting a little pricier, it's still special because the people who you share it with.
Yeah.
It's still very exciting.
I think that's one of the things that made the Barbenheimer event so compelling to so many people, was because it was like a moment in time. And Barbenheimer is going to be a day I will always remember for the rest of my life.
I don't know what the next event's going to be. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm reading the comments right now. Many parents put on any animated streaming for kids. Ad nauseum, Elemental might be a change to not put on Frozen 2.
That's true.
Right. That's probably another reason Elemental is a fresh movie. And like Figure Drawing says, it is a thoughtful movie because I actually did get to see it. I actually did see it in theaters, and I can't wait to rewatch it. It's right. It's about immigration and like doing what your parents want you to do or what you want to do, and people from two different worlds. And it's Pixar's real first love story. So that was nice to see how they did their take on that.
So you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And you like, okay. All right. I haven't seen it yet. I actually haven't watched a Pixar film in a while, but I need to because they're good.
Yeah, Pixar's good. I know maybe some recent years, some movies haven't been as universally as beloved as some others, but I still don't think that Pixar can make a bad movie. I just don't think it's in them. Even if it's not as good as another one, it's not a bad movie. They just can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Elemental breaking Disney Plus streaming records. And, it kind of goes to show you, like, when these movies were being released, like the movies before, like I think was Soul, a Pixar film that was released like on Disney Plus, something like that. Like, I don't think
that was COVID.
Yeah, right. And it didn't really gain a lot of traction. But the idea of like, even with I guess what it proves too is that word of mouth means something, right? Like when the movie came out, it didn't really do too well. And then it started gaining that traction. And now, now that it's available on streaming, everybody's like jumping on it. I think even something like that might happen. I'm not saying it's going to break Max's records, but I think a lot more people are going to be watching Blue Beetle when it drops on streaming, for instance.
I think so too. And word of mouth is also a big factor with certain movies.
Yeah. And like, for instance, like with the bad word of mouth, like when Flash dropped on Max, it didn't perform well on Max at all. Like that's my biggest surprise of the year. It was like, I thought Michael Keaton would be a bigger draw to people in that movie, but nah, everything else kind of got in its own way, especially just the history of the DCEU and people's lack of acceptance of it. So yeah, it's interesting. All right. Here's the juicy topic of the day. So we got Daredevil, Born Again, arriving at some point on Disney Plus. Of course, everything's halted with the strikes right now, but hopefully they can get a deal worked out. They're actually seeming to go into a more positive direction as far as the strikes go.
Today?
Yeah, I think they're working on something today.
So yeah, hopefully, I hope everyone gets their fair payment. I really, really hope so.
Well, if the strike continues, they all lose. You know what I'm saying? All sides lose the longer it continues. Like, people aren't getting paid. We're having to have The Rock and John Cena go back to WWE. You know what I'm saying? To keep food on the table because it's strong. It's hard out there being The Rock, I'm sure. Tequila sales must be down. All right. So Daredevil Born Again. It's coming out. It's on Disney Plus. We know all about that. Stephen S. DeKnight was in an interview or something, and he was, and I did not know this. There's another organization or union or something. There's some kind of rules where it's a part of something. I don't remember what it's called right now. It starts with an I. It's like an abbreviation, but I can't remember it. But the idea is that if a show is successful enough to get to a season 4, then everything goes up. Like the pay will go up, the baseline salary, everybody gets more benefits, everybody gets more, money. They get more of a piece of the pie. They maybe get more residuals or something like that. And so Stephen S. DeKnight was saying that Disney not making Daredevil season 4, but instead making it a new show brings all those contracts back to the baseline. And he says it's a very shady, grimy way of cutting corners and saving money and keeping people at a lower base level of pay. Do you know anything about this? Have you heard this?
Kind of. I remember I was talking with someone else the other day, like, because all the Disney Channel shows that, like, once they hit like a reboot or a fourth season, like the title gets changed, so they go back to the baseline. So they've done that. So Disney's really been doing that for like a long time.
Yeah, they used to do that with like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and stuff like that, right? Like all those shows, like that's right. They would hit like a certain era and they would reboot with a different branding, a different name. Mm-hmm. And this is the reason why, apparently.
So Daredevil, I get right. It's this. I see what they mean. It's technically their fourth season, but like, are we sure if it's? I guess I'm a little confused on it's still connected to the Netflix show, or is it a complete and total reboot? Because, you know, the multiverse thing, is this technically in this universe now? And were they clear on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very clear right now that it's not necessarily a continuation of the Netflix show, right? And it's not like they did season 3 of Daredevil and then immediately Disney was like, hey, we're rebranding it for season 4, right? And we're doing something new. It feels like they're just bringing in, you know, some of the faces. We know Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio. So I don't know if it's quite the nefarious motive that Stephen S. DeKnight was touting, right? And by the way, Stephen S. DeKnight is the showrunner of the first season, which I think is amazing and probably the greatest season of a superhero TV show, in my opinion, is Daredevil season 1. I love Daredevil season 1. It's obviously going to be softer. It's going to be different. But I do remember when the Netflix shows started, they were acting just like they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was, oh, these are important. They are connected. This is a part of it. There were references, but they never directly referenced stuff, right? They would mention like the New York incident, you know, and things like that. So I don't know. It feels like they want to have their cake and eat it too. It feels like they want people to assume that it's a continuation because of the success of Daredevil. They want to take what worked in their opinion and make it work again, and also kind of make it Disney-fied. I don't know. Are you excited for this show? Did you like the previous Daredevil show?
I've only seen a little bit of the original Daredevil. Like, Daredevil is like not my go-to character, but I respect that a lot of people love him. A lot of people were so excited when he was going to pop up on She-Hulk. Then it's like, oh yeah, he really is in the universe, and he showed up in Spider-Man. It's so cool. So I'm happy that people get to see Daredevil because they love him so much. I'm happy for everybody else. So I hope whenever this show ever does get made, I hope people like it. That's really all I can say about it, is that I hope things work out. I hope things work out with it, because it's a lot of people out there who do care about it.
Yeah. Did you like Daredevil's appearance on She-Hulk?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay. I liked his appearance on She-Hulk, but it did make me realize, okay, this isn't going to be the Netflix Daredevil show. Like, and especially after watching Moon Knight, I was like, I just don't think Disney, it's not that I used to say they're not capable of it. And I think they're not capable of it because I don't think they want to. I don't think the intention of Disney is to make brutal, violent shows. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, maybe that's why Daredevil works so well when they just kind of put it on Netflix and let them do their own thing. Moon Knight probably could have benefited from that, just given it a little bit more edge. But I know a lot of people that like Moon Knight and a lot of people that like She-Hulk. A lot of people, that was my favorite episode of She-Hulk, was one where Charlie Cox comes in, because it's a different side of Matt Murdock, right? Like, if you read the history of the comic book, Daredevil is not always that Frank Miller version of Daredevil. He's not always like down and filled and ridden with like Catholic guilt and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of elements of Daredevil runs in the early Stan Lee days, in the Mark Waid stuff, even some stuff back in the 90s, I think, with Carl Kiesel. Like, Daredevil sometimes is a happy-go-lucky, womanizing, charming kind of dude, and that was what was coming across in She-Hulk, and I think tonally it worked for that show. But calling this Born Again, obviously there's a connotation right there. There's name recognition that OUG was talking about in the chat, about this connection to the Frank Miller story, and I think they're using Born Again as just a title only, being like reboot. This is Daredevil Reboot, right? So, and I see a lot of people in the chat that said that Daredevil season 2 was better than 1, or they loved it. I liked a lot of Daredevil season 2, but I hated what they did with the character of Elektra. That's why I can't quite make that leap right there. Are you excited? You're excited for this new Daredevil show. Do you think that Stephen S. DeKnight is just kind of like going up the wrong tree, or do you think there's something to what he's saying?
Maybe a little bit to what he's saying, and right, they're coming back. Right, if it's the whole Disney scheme where they're just kind of bringing it back to where the first season was, and just clean slate for everyone. It's like if people aren't getting what they're owed, then that's crappy. Really.
Yeah, but I think you kind of mentioned this was we never really got the impression fully that this was a continuation of that show. Like they were trying to do something different on their own. And obviously Disney's going to approach the character and that world a little bit differently, I think, right?
Yeah, you got me thinking about, like, because when they moved the Netflix shows over to Disney Plus, like Disney now has a code thing, like, because you have to be like age appropriate to watch certain shows now. So that's why you're allowed to stream it. So I'm like, if you're using that, why are you going to remodel this Daredevil show to adjust to the MCU? You can still keep it dark and gray. Just use the password thing. If that's why you have it, then why don't you use it? Or if people really want to go more extreme with certain shows, like Disney also owns Hulu. You can move things to other platforms so you can still do edgier stuff. That's why Disney had, like, even back in the day before all the streaming stuff, Disney would fund other studios Disney would own other studios so they could fund like R-rated movies and people wouldn't really know it was them.
Yeah, they had like Touchstone Pictures and Hollywood, or what was it? Hollywood Pictures, I think. But like a lot of people don't remember this, but like Nightmare Before Christmas originally was considered way too dark for Disney, so that was released under Is it Touchstone or Touchstar?
Yeah,
Touchstone, right?
Touchstone. I still have the VHS and the original DVD that still has the Touchstone Pictures Presents.
Yeah. And then eventually, I guess they decided that was brand appropriate enough, and so now it's like bona fide Disney.
No, people love the cult following. People love it so much. Like, and I could go on all day about how I have mixed feelings about Disney and Nightmare Before Christmas, because it just felt like, because people love it so much now, it's like, oh no, yeah, we love Nightmare. We'll make all this stuff for you, and I'm calling myself out here because, like, I love that movie to death. It's my favorite movie of all time. I'll buy anything on it, but I'm also feeding Disney, who I have issues with. Why am I doing this to myself? So I'm so split down the middle. Like I said, that's a whole nother video.
I bet. Absolutely. Well, what do y'all think about this? If you're watching on the repeat, please let us know in the comments below. What do you think about Lando as a movie with Donald Glover? What do you think about Elemental's success? What's that saying about streaming, about the theater experience, about the way we are consuming our media? And what do you think about this Daredevil news? Do you really think there's something nefarious going on? Or you just think Disney's trying to Disney-fy Daredevil and make a clean break from the Netflix show? Amy, thank you so much for stepping in, filling in for Rex. We actually did the show at the original time we're supposed to be doing it. We started on time. We're only supposed to be doing a 30-minute show, but Rex is so long-winded sometimes, so it's really it's nice.
I could go on about each thing for hours and hours and hours. And I'm looking back at more what people are saying in the chat. And right, people are kind of arguing about what shows are good, what shows are not, and what's killing what. And wow, just wow.
Lots of conversation. Josh wants to know what you think. What? No, Figure Drawing said, question, Amy, what did you think of the She-Hulk show?
Overall, I enjoyed She-Hulk. I love Tatiana Maslany. I think she's one of the greatest actresses working today. So I remember being so excited hearing that she was going to be in the MCU as a badass superhero. I was so excited. And I thought She-Hulk was right. I understand, like, some parts of it aren't perfect, but I still think overall it was a fun show. I like like, again, she's so good with the fourth wall breaking stuff. I liked, and despite all what people say, like, was it too meta? Was it talking about this kind of stuff too much? I'm like, well, you're kind of proving the point, guys. Like, because people were saying what the show wasn't going to work even before it was even in production, but here you go. And I did hear that they're trying. They are thinking about a season 2, and I hope they make it. I hope it is more like courtroom stuff and her balancing the superhero and the lawyer stuff. Like, who is she more? What does she want to be more? So I still think a season 2 could work.
Yeah.
With She-Hulk, I still think it could work.
One thing that I appreciate is just kind of like the backing off of so much content, like just coming all the time, right? Like Loki's on the horizon now. Like, did you watch Secret Invasion? I still haven't watched it, but I haven't heard anybody that liked it.
Unofficially official geek. Thank you. I feel like you and me would be best friends. Secret Invasion, I know there are past videos of me saying I have high hopes for the show, and I did. And I'll admit, Secret Invasion did not turn out as I thought it was going to. So I'll admit that one was a bit of a disappointment. Secret Invasion.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. I think one day I'm just going to have to watch it just to see exactly what everybody's talking about.
The best things about it are the performances. Like, there's great one-on-one scenes with Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn. There's great stuff with him and Olivia Colman. So that's really the best thing I can say about the show. The performances in it are great. There's great one-on-one scenes, but overall, with the story, again, really could have been great with the espionage, thriller, you don't know who to trust kind of stuff, and it really could have launched a really exciting thing in the MCU. But now but how it ended really was just like that.
Yeah, that's what I heard from people. Heck yeah. All right, now I hear a lot of great things about Ahsoka from people, but I have heard that, like, you got to be kind of connected to Rebels to get the full effect out of it. Are you watching Ahsoka?
I'm following Ahsoka. Again, I'm not as hardcore with Star Wars as I am with MCU stuff, but I'm following it. I'm happy that people are happy with it.
Heck yeah. All right. Let us know what you think of any of these topics. Amy, thank you so much for being here and filling in for Rex's shoes. It couldn't have been easy because, Rex is the great one, right? No, I really appreciate you being here. What y'all got coming up?
Tonight is the Original Art Experience. It's our biggest show yet. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern. Nick's going to have a piece of John Romita Jr. art, and it's going to be best offer for $1. So, guys, I really highly recommend you come on and check it out. And it's the Amazing Spider-Man 34 cover that book just came out this week. We have the cover, and it's going to be best offer. So if you want a chance to get it, come check it out.
And it's a great iconic cover too, because it's got Spider-Man and Goblin and the shattering effect going on by John Romita Jr. It's a really cool cover. The original art looks great. And to do a best offer on that cover, the original art, the original cover starting at $1, that's insane. That is 100% insane. And of course, we'll be over at the EXP on Monday night as well for the Comic Collectables show. Horror Fest is underway. I was on Verno's channel last night, Blood Splatter Chatter, talking about The Bride of Chucky. We had a great conversation. I'll be in Memphis this weekend, but I am going to pop into Dylan's Horror Show tomorrow night to talk about Sinister, which I've never seen. I'm going to be watching it tonight. And then Monday night on PCP Movie Night, David Cronenberg's The Brood. I am very, very excited for that one. So, Amy, thank you for being here. I'm sorry, what's that?
I just saw Sinister, by the way. I think you'll probably like it. I just saw Sinister for the first time.
Really? Cool.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did like it. I did.
Okay. Cool.
One of these days, one of these days, it should just be you and me talking horror. I think that'd be a fun conversation. But I'll be
okay.
Be sure
we'll kick Rex off next week. Let's do it.
Rex is fired. Oh well.
Yeah, but I'm all down for it. The Fantastic Friday show with awesome Amy and Rockin Robbie. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, Amy.